Good morning. I am Kay, and this is Thought for the Day for Monday, the 17th of January. I live in the little hamlet of Wick, part of the benefice of Bentley, Binstead and Froyle. Today we are going to look at Matthew chapter 24, verses 1 to 14, which form part of the beginning of the Olivet Discourse in chapters 24 and 25, so called because they were shared by Jesus on the Mount of Olives towards the end of his last week on earth. They also appear in Mark and Luke. This is one of the most important passages in the Bible, as it contains Jesus' most extensive prophetic teaching. The destruction of the temple and signs of the end times. Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. "Do you see all these things?" he asked. "Truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. "Tell us," they said, "when will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am the Messiah,' and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." In a recent sermon on Jesus the prophet, Jan emphasized the importance of prophets in the Bible as God's mouthpieces to individuals, nations, and the world. As seers, they see reality as God sees it, the divine worldview, God's eternal perspective, and his cosmic purposes for all time. As the Son of God, Jesus was the ultimate prophet, and in these 2 chapters, he prophesies both in the short term, that's the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, and the long term, what will happen when he comes again in glory to judge us all. The passage starts innocuously enough. As Jesus leaves the temple, the disciples comment on the magnificent temple buildings, and indeed they were. Built 500 years earlier, the temple had been massively enlarged, refurbished, and magnificently decorated over the previous 46 years by Herod. To quote Jan, it was the epicenter of Jewish, racial, religious, and national identity. But Jesus replies that it will all be destroyed. So when Jesus and the disciples reach the Mount of Olives, the disciples ask him 2 critical but distinct questions. When will the temple be destroyed? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Jesus responds by answering both questions. What follows is not one answer covering both, but one that touches on both events entwined, as he both prophesies the destruction of the temple and also on matters and issues covering the cosmos and all of time. The destruction of the temple occurred in AD 70. It was so complete that even the stones were prized apart to collect the gold leaf that had melted from the roof when the temple was set on fire. The rest of this passage then sets out some really important instructions as to how we are to live our lives now until Jesus returns. Many people over the centuries have spent inordinate amounts of time trying to work out exactly when this will happen. Others prefer not to think about it at all. It is worth noting what Jesus said about these two attitudes. No one knows when it will happen, not even the angels or Jesus, only God. But it will happen, and will come like a thief in the night when we least expect it. We currently live in a world where many terrible things happen: wars, famine, and earthquakes. But they are merely the beginning of the birth pains of the end. It is not yet. So how do we lead our lives now in these in-between times? And how do we respond to Jesus' warnings and exhortations? Well, Jesus gives us some very clear guidance in this passage. First, we need to hold on to Jesus' words and not be deceived and led astray by false prophets or people even claiming to be Jesus. Who might the false prophets be today, and how might we be influenced by them? We are encouraged throughout the Bible to discern. Discernment is so important to ensure we are not led astray. We should also look out for people claiming to be Jesus. I don't think that I have met anyone actively claiming this, but I have met people who seek to undermine or disregard biblical truths, including those spoken by Jesus. They can be very persuasive, and their message can be very attractive. So maybe we should ask ourselves at regular intervals, who or what could possibly take the place of Jesus at the center of our lives? Secondly, we must ensure that our love for Jesus does not grow cold. It is so important to encourage each other to keep our hearts on fire with love for him. We need to guard against hardening our hearts and turning away from our faith, especially if it makes our lives difficult or even dangerous. What happens to a piece of coal if it falls out of the fire? To begin with, it glows brightly, but without its fellow coals to make heat, it gradually ceases to glow until it grows cold. If our hearts are on fire with love for Jesus, this love will naturally spill out into our families, friends, neighbours, and all we meet. Finally, Jesus says that before the end comes, the good news of the kingdom of God will be preached throughout the world. This is extraordinarily exciting, and maybe we should be asking ourselves what part Jesus would like us to play in this. But if all this seems very daunting, we just need to remember that if we trust in Jesus and stand firm to the end, whenever it happens, we will be saved. May you have a blessed day.